you ever do.
No.
And I throw a lot at you. Okay. So what do you think the most challenging thing about Realvolve was for you in that beginning part?
Challenging was just not being familiar with everything that it can do, not utilizing every feature that it has because I didn't know that it had them.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah. There's all kind. In fact, I don't even know all of the things that Realvolve can do.
Yeah.
Mark Steph is constantly dropping Christmas presents on my head. I'm like, you can do that? That's amazing.
Yeah, that happens to me still to this day because
Right.
there's so much that it can
And then
do.
I come running back to you and I say, Simone, guess what? I rewrote this workflow. It's so cool.
Yeah.
Newsflash, this is what we're doing now. It's a good thing you're okay with change.
Yeah.
So let's talk about how Revolve makes your life easier. What types of things help you? And let's see, can somebody on that side show my screen? Let's see, wait. I
We
think
can
my
see the
screen,
screen.
you can see my screen. Oh,
Yep.
which is probably fun. All right, so we already met you.
Okay.
It's nice. Do you like that I called you the den mother?
Yeah, it's fine.
Okay, because it's kind of what you do.
It kind of is.
Yeah, especially for me.
Yeah.
Between you and my husband.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so saving time. Talk about that.
You should hit play. You should hit play, Kendall, so your screen's a little bit bigger.
Okay. Bigger.
There we go.
Is that better?
That's much better. Yes.
Much better. Ooh, excellent. It's kind of like you're talking. You're telling me what to do. I love that.
And I know a lot of people wonder, often they want ideas for what they should be using workflows for, because they're so powerful. There's so many options there. Would love to know, Simone, your favorite time savers.
The pre-written emails for everything, for letting the client know where we're at in the listing or in the transaction, for ordering reports. The pre-written stuff, I absolutely love those, not just because they're pre-written, but because there's also a lot of things in the email that fills automatically, like client names, transaction dates, and things that I would otherwise have to go searching for each time. I don't have to look for them because they come up automatically.
So let's show people one of them that really saves us all a lot of time is the intro. Let's see, where's the intro to the seller? That's probably not what I
Type in seller.
Seller?
Yeah.
Okay, type in seller. See, she knows.
Opening.
All right, so let's see. Opening letter to the seller. Let's do the Diggs version. Seller report. And I don't see it. Okay, well, we'll just do the BSE. Huh? Okay, opening letter to the seller. I think it's the same one. Okay. So let's see. I don't know if you guys can see this because it's pretty small. Let's go. Let's make it bigger. Whoa, that's way big. Okay. Now we go back down.
That looks good.
All right. Okay. So here's one where it saves you a lot of time.
Yes.
Right. So you were talking about how we can put in
names, dates, different people in the transactions, emails, phone numbers.
Right. So the contact information, we have their phone number here for the transaction coordinator.
Yeah.
So the escrow person, I mean, we like to use similar escrow companies each time, but it's not every time, right?
Right.
So, we type in the escrow officer's information once, and then it fills in here. How about here? I mean,
all the contingency dates, the close of escrow, the possession. I don't want to have to look that up every time.
Right. And then from my perspective, we put all of this stuff in there, and then I wrote these parts of what happens this week, what we do, what you do, and this kind of helped you know in the beginning how I like to communicate with my clients, how I keep them, happy and comfortable and going on. Should we show them these emails?
Yeah, let's do one of those.
Okay, all right. So let's see. What do we want to type in?
Order NHD.
Order NHD. I'll do this so that. Okay. Order and HD.
So
Go ahead.
I was just going to say that this email, I love that email because it's propagating a lot of information there that you would have normally had to copy and paste a lot of information. So tell us about how did you come up with that email? So that's something you wrote, right, Kendyl?
Before I had Revolve, I was doing this, well, okay, to be fair, I was making whoever was sitting in Simone's seat do this manually. And so I had this like template, it was like typed out and copied on my printer, right? And I've been doing this for years because it just makes sense. You want the other side to be operating with all of the correct information, and you want to make it as easy. One of the tenets at Diggs here is that we make things as convenient as possible for the client, and then the parentheses is the other agent is a client, right? So we want to make things easy not only for our client, but for the agent on the other side. So doing this intro letter was a way of making that happen, and then it also kind of subtly puts them on notice that we've got our S together, so don't mess with us.
So then from a team perspective, how much effort do you put into that communication now, Kendyl, and what's Simone's role?
I don't do anything.
Yeah, that was an easy softball question. That's why I was asking.
Simone, from day one, my perspective is from day one, she moved into the doer seat, and anything that does not pertain to negotiations, she does. And that includes pretty much all of the client care communication except for a few critical points, like discussing the inspection report.
Right.
Yeah, which is really more of a negotiation.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then I do, glad-handing things like, congratulations, we removed all our contingencies, if I remember. Yeah. Mostly she does it.
I still do that. So.
Yeah, I don't do anything.
So then go ahead.
Go ahead. I was going to say, this is an example on my screen of one of the other time savers. So in our area, we are not required, but it's extremely important to do a natural hazards disclosure report. And so we always order that right when we take a listing.
Yeah.
And it used to be, a 5-10 minute phone call to your rep, and now it's a 5 to 10 second process to send this email, and it's already filled in. Right.
It's filled into the contact, it fills in the property street address, and it fills in escrow's information for sending the report.
So it's very automated, and it's everything we need, and it makes it a lot easier. So anyway, you were going to ask us a question, Dale?
No, I think you answered it. That's fine.
Oh, okay, cool.
Keep
all right,
going.
So whoops, come back. I'm sorry, guys, for all of the switching around. There's just a lot of information I want to show you. So here's another thing that we thought was really important for Simone. Take it away.
Yeah. Being able to do things before they're required or before the deadline date, such as checking in to make sure that the appraisal has been ordered several days before it actually needs to be done, checking on the loan, making sure the loan docs will come in 10 days before close.
Why is it important to do this ahead of time, and how does Revolve help us do this ahead of time?
Revolve helps because it has the reminders that come up and tell us, do this, check on that, email this person.
If you didn't have those reminders, what would happen?
I might remember to do it, I might not.
We've got a lot on our plate, and I don't think that we're unusual. I think everybody on the webinar right now, to some degree, feels a sense of overwhelm. We're moving into the spring season. There's a lot going on, right? And so having this helps us of non-perfect memory.
Yeah, especially when it's very busy. If we only have one transaction, okay, it's all going to get done. But what if we have 10?
Which we've had,
yeah.
Which we do on an actually more than regular basis.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, keeping track of that, you might remember on the deadline because you might get something from somebody else.
Mm-hmm.
But to be the one that moves everybody into a place where they do things on time, that's a big part of our value, quite frankly. which actually leads to my second slide, normalizing for vendor qualities. You want to say more about that?
Yeah, well, that it kind of goes along with the same thing, you know, keeping ordering things from vendors that we need well before we need it, in case they're on vacation
or in case they're not our regular vendor and
right.
They're less than Dig's quality.
Yeah.
I mean, everything that touches my brand, and this is a big deal for me, everything that touches my brand, I want it to be my quality. But the NHD person,
the lender,
the escrow,
yeah, we can't.
We don't always, yeah. And so in order to deliver a similar quality of experience no matter who we have to deal with, the den mother over here can normalize, because we've got all those letters in there, and the deadlines and the reminders to reach out or send them a text.
Yeah.
Very friendly text.
Yeah.
You haven't made your appointment for the appraisal yet. What's happened?
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's another thing that saves us a lot of time.
Yeah.
What about infrequent situations?
That's really cool, because when we start a transaction workflow, we can check the box for LA City or Pasadena, where there are particular requirements that we don't have anywhere else.
Right, and I'm sure that I've written workflows now for a number of you in different cities across the country, and almost all of you have something that is a city requirement, a municipal requirement, an HOA requirement. We have things in California with something called Melrose, which only happens in a new development. So, or staging. Oh, remember when we put that letter in there?
Yeah.
What happened? Tell me the story.
That was really helpful, because there's definitely times where we would forget to have the staging removed until the day we're closing escrow.
And then we call the stager, and then what did she do? She freaked out, right?
Yeah, it was a big panic. And
lots of drama.
Yeah.
We don't do drama.
No.
So we put in a letter that was timed to go out at the moment that we removed all contingencies.
Yeah.
That triggered a letter to the stager saying, we're ready for destaging. Please contact us with your earliest date that you can destage.
Yeah, and
right?
Typically at that point we have at least 10, 12 more days to work with.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. But that's part of what's great about Revolve, is that as we learn, when something happens that we don't like, which involves stress or anxiety, we look at each other and say, could we have handled that by putting something in the workflow? And if the answer is yes, one of the two of us, now she's as good at workflows. Okay, maybe not as good as I am, but you're good with workflows. You're good. She's good with workflows. She fires it up, and in fact, she's put stuff in there that I didn't know was there. I look up from my desk and I'm like, Simone, did we put? And she's like, I already put that in the workflow. I'm like, yeah, we got it. Okay, what else do I want to ask you? Oh, yeah, this is a good one. So how does Revolve help manage the agents on our team?
It helps, because I can not only see what I have to do, but I can see what everyone has to do, and I can see what they haven't done. And then I can call them and say, why haven't you done this?
Does that give you a sense of ultimate control?
A little.
Do you like that?
Yeah, I do. Yeah.
So then, how do you manage that part of the business then, Simone? So when you're looking for, things that are done or not yet completed, what's the practical application there? How are you tactically doing that in Realvolve?
Oh, she has the tact. I don't have the tact.
It depends on what it is and who it is, because there are times when an agent, I know that they've done something, they just didn't mark it off. So sometimes it's just a matter of hitting the checkbox and getting rid of it. And our agents are not in Realvolve as much as we are.
They will be when we get mobile. They will be when we get mobile.
Yeah, someday they will be. Right now they're not. So there are times when I know things have been done and it pops up, and I can say, oh, they did that. Click. Other times, if it's something that is really important, like the getting out the repair request before the day that the contingency is due, which is ideal, I can text or call them and remind them about that and see where that's at and see if they have any questions, if there's any problems with that. So it opens up the conversation of, where things are at and what they're doing.
It allows us as a brokerage and also Simone as the one who's currently the transaction coordinator to just, again, be ahead of things and deliver that consistent quality no matter which one of our agents, because some of our agents are better at paperwork than others.
Yeah.
So it just allows us to maintain that quality with every transaction.
Yeah.
Switch there. I don't have another one.
That's it.
That's
it.
Okay. That's it. That's all I got.
Okay.
It's, I got stuff to do, girlfriend. So here's the big question.
Okay.
How does Revolve allow you to manage me? Because team leads are infamously getting in the way of administrators.
You've actually never done that.
Get out.
To say. No,
seriously?
No. On the other hand, it was the complete opposite. It was here, just go and do, and you didn't want to know, which is fine. That works for me.
Okay. So, all right, then how did Revolve help you with me just going, I don't want to deal with it, and handing it to you?
A lot the same as the other agents. I can see what you've done and what you haven't done. I can also see what's coming up. Mm-hmm. So, if you have some things that you need to do maybe in the next day or two, but I know in the next day or two you're going to be really busy, I can ask you to do them now.
Okay. Yeah. So just kind of managing my workload along with
based on your schedule.
Yeah. So, overall, how do you perceive Revolve in its value to running a brokerage, running our team?
It's got a lot of value for a lot of different reasons. I mean, for one, I was able to step in with almost no training because everything you wanted done was there in Realvolve. So, I knew the business, it was going to get done, but I would have done things my way. Mm-hmm. And instead, I was able to do things your way without being trained.
And of course, my way is better, obviously.
Yes, absolutely.
Oh gosh, sorry. This is what happens all day long with us, so never mind us.
I can see why you need a system like Realvolve to stay on task.
Yeah, no, we both have a severe case of squirrel, so.
So there's a couple of questions. If you don't mind, I'll interject these into the conversation here. So Gina wants to know, when you're interviewing admins and assistants, office managers, that kind of supporting roles there, what are the main requirements or things that you're looking for, Kendyl, and how do you choose? And how does Realvolve impact that now today versus how you used to have to look at that?
I don't know that Realvolve has changed my requirements. I've always been an extremely tech-centric real estate agent, and I've always used some sort of system. So one of my very high requirements is a comfort level with using technology, and now I've learned that people lie about that, so now I test people. I used to just go, oh, you're tech savvy? Great, and I'd totally accept it, and then I'd find out later that what they meant is they know where the on button is with the computer. It's
very accurate.
So, some people, it's been tragic. So not only asking them about their tech savviness, but actually testing them. So I now set up tests where I ask them to complete a project or complete something and to see if they can figure out how to do it. We haven't needed to hire any tech people, although we gave Alicia a test, didn't we? I don't remember if we did or not.
We didn't.
We should have.
Knew her already.
Yeah, we should have. So setting up tests is really important because people lie, or to be kinder, they interview aspirationally. The other thing that's important is they need to demonstrate, and there's a whole bunch of questions that I ask around this, but I need them to demonstrate that they are detail-oriented and a little bit control-freaky. Here at Diggs, we have a huge love of checklists. We love the thrill of checking stuff off of our checklist. And so I need them to give me that answer that they love to check stuff off of checklists without me saying, so do you love to check things off a checklist? Because the immediate answer will be, yes, of course I do.
Right.
Again, aspirational. So I ask them questions like, how do you organize your day? How do you multitask? what systems you have in place in your life to handle your schedule, your priorities, that sort of thing. And I'm just listening for the answers to find out, do they use checklists, and how do they use their checklists, and how do they hold themselves accountable, right? So those are two really big things. And then the third one is pretty loose. There's not like a specific question, but I want to see, okay, well, for me, they got to have a sense of humor.
Definitely.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know how to handle people who have no sense of humor. I don't know how to talk to them. So in the interview, I need to feel comfortable that we are communicating on a, I guess, a deep level, right? Yeah. So I told her that I hired her because she had just the right amount of bitch, and that didn't scare her when I said that.
It's true.
It is true.
And what I do, I don't hire admins and supporting roles inside a real estate company, but I've done my fair share of hiring. The tip that I have for people hiring is I highly recommend a book called Who? The A Method for Hiring. It's by Jeff Smart and Randy Street. I highly, highly, highly recommend that book for anybody that's not done a lot of hiring, or if you feel like you want to improve your hiring. That book is like the Bible for hiring people. There's scripts in there on what to say in the interviews and things like that. It's the most scientific, accurate way to interview people that I know. So take a look at that book.
What's the full title of the book again?
It's called Who, the A Method for Hiring, like A+ grade, the A Method for Hiring.
I am writing that down. Thank you. That's a good one.
It's one of my top 5 business books, probably.
Cool.
Yeah. So here's another question. Where do you document how to do the activities, Kendyl? Do you use the activity notes? Carlin says, I'm having trouble with training people, not being able to see the whole workflows of training people. And then number 2, notes being entered into the transaction before the activity's been done. What suggestions do you have for these matters?
I'm not sure what she means by notes before the activity's been done.
Well, so one thing you can do, I think it's Carlin. One thing you can do is you can put a notes field into the workflow activity,
right. So that can you still see my screen?
Yeah, we can see it.
Great. So here, Carolyn, here's what the activity looks like, and right here is the notes field. So you can say, anything that you want to. So in this field, if, for example, I have an activity and they need to go to a particular website in order to fulfill it, like there's order the address stamp, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, order the address stamp. There's a particular vendor. There's a website. There's login data on that one.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we put in the website information right here, what the URL is, and the login credentials if we need it, right there in the note. One of the things that is a little bit weird is that note will show up on your dashboard on the day that you're supposed to enact the activity. So let's just say that we wrote an activity on that particular day, it's due and it shows up on your dashboard. Under notes and correspondence, the information of the note on that activity is here, but it's not necessarily here on this activity. The only way you're going to be able to see it is to hit the little pencil and to open up the activity, and now you're going to be able to see the notes. Okay? So I know that Mark and I have talked about maybe jazzing up that user interface for that particular one, but that's how it is right now. Right now, it's either there when you open up the full details of the activity, or it's on your dashboard on notes on the day that the activity is due. Okay. Any other questions?
Awesome. Oh, there are tons of questions. They're just coming in back to back. So here is a question for Simone. This is from Deb. She says, Simone, did you use any of the pre-existing workflow templates? And if so, did you find them helpful or more work versus creating your own? So we did talk a little bit about that earlier. But Simone, do you want to talk about the value of having those templates when you walked in the door, and then talk a little bit about when you decide to adjust things and how you guys do that as a team?
Well, first of all, I want to answer the question that she really asked. We didn't use anybody else's templates, workflows. Everything that Simone used, I wrote, just so that you know.
Yeah.
So anyway, go ahead.
So in the beginning, obviously, I had to use things mainly the way they were. What I did, because I could tell some of them were written from the perspective of this seems like a good idea, but because you maybe hadn't actually sent them out, it wasn't quite working, but it was close. It was close.
All right.
And it was much easier for me to just tweak what was already there versus writing something from scratch.
I mean, you don't know how something's going to work until you send it out.
Exactly.
And also, like, you'll have, like, an activity that seems really good by itself, but when you put it into the entire workflow, it may conflict or just not be as clear against other activities, right?
Exactly.
And so what's good in a lab is not necessarily good in the real world, and that's what she was tweaking.
Yeah.
And I wrote these things now two and a half years ago. I've forgotten what I've written at this point. She reminds me, because she's the one who's actually doing them.
Yeah.
I love this conversation between you two back and forth because it's like the truth serum to have both of you on the call at the same time.
I know. I can't bullshit you with all of my. It's like, yeah, I'm so perfect. It's like, yeah, I'm so not. She can tell you that.
So here's another question. How do you compensate your team members, and how do you hold them accountable?
Well, compensation conversation is for another place and time. Every team does compensation structures differently, and there's no right or wrong answer. But what was the second part of the question? How do you hold them accountable?
Hold your, yeah, hold
oh,
how do you
God.
hold your
Accountability is a huge deal that was baked in. Yeah, so my answer, I don't know if you're going to be able to use it. One of the reasons I launched my brokerage is because my concept of accountability is not out there in the wild, wild world. So my agents are held accountable every day. Every day they have to check in our secret Facebook group. If you use Slack, you could use Slack or something like it. And they have to report every day certain measurable things, like how many contacts they've made in that particular day. They also have to report whether or not they have gone into Realvolve and updated their things. And then both Simone and I, when they first start, I'm in their account every day. And then when I feel like they're up and running, I'm not necessarily in it every day, but Simone is every day. And we're both checking their assigned tasks on Revolve. And so let me show you what that looks like. So here is the task button. Let's move it over here. And so this shows all the tasks, and if I hit this little person icon, I can see, like, for example, Melissa, what kinds of tasks are on her task thing, and is she up to date? Or I could take a look at, Jake, or really anybody, and find out, are their tasks up to date, and are there places where I can coach them, like if I see they're consistently not making follow-up phone calls, that's an opportunity to coach them to be more effective and to be more intentional with the time that they have, every day.
That's great. So another question is, do your checklists live in Realvolve or on paper?
Oh, I'll let you answer that.
We deal with as little paper as possible.
We're allergic to paper here.
Yeah. So everything is online for us.
Right. So you saw those checklists that I showed you just a second ago, the task lists. These task lists are very dynamic. They're not only based on time, but they also have in them the tools that we need to actually, I'm just looking for one that is an email. So like if there is a template letter that is attached to an activity, then that is on there. You can't do that with a piece of paper. If there's a checklist, of certain things, like there's 5 or 6 things that need to happen in order to finish that activity. Like what's a good one? You had one on your list a second ago. Let's just say,
like when a listing closes.
Yeah, when a listing closes, there's a bunch of different things that needs to happen. There's a checklist there that needs to go, and you could do that on paper, but what you can't do on paper is, let's just say there's 5 things on that checklist. You check off 3 of them, and 2 are outstanding. Like, oh, here it is, documents. The documents needed to close out a file.
Yeah. Say you're missing 1 out of 30.
So we could actually send a pre-written letter that says to the agent, this one document is missing, and that's all done automatically with merge fields. You can't do that with a piece of paper. So yeah, all of our checklists, everything that we do is coded. And just so whoever asked that question, paper checklists are so like last century. I mean, they really are. And workflows are that's checklist 3.0, right? And at Revolve, we do those workflows, these 3-dimensional checklists, better than anybody that I've ever seen. It's why I'm part of the company. It's revolutionary. It really is.
Awesome. So you said your agents don't use Realvolve all the time, or they're not updating things as often as they should. Question is, does your admin then input everything for every agent, or how do you split those tasks?
I input a lot of stuff for them. Basically everything except their contacts, because that's all them. Everything as far as transactions, transaction dates, the escrow officer, I input all that.
We run digs like a team, not a brokerage with independent agents all doing their own thing. And so our goal is that our agents are free to do what they're really good at, which is talking to people and selling houses.
That's great. A follow-up question from Carolyn. So what about training people on the workflows, since there's not an easy way to print the workflows?
Right. So what I do is, like, for example, I just recently wrote, like, my agents are really excited about this. I just recently wrote a workflow to handle buyers once they've started actively looking with my agents. It was a big hole in my workflow, like, world. And in order to train my agents on not only how to use them, because it's just fire it up and follow the cookie crumbs. What's more important is the agents understand why this workflow is valuable to them, but more importantly for me, because this is the point of digs, why it is useful or more valuable to the client. Because if we don't deliver great value to the client, there's no reason in doing it, in my opinion. And so what I do is I get them together and I show them the template letters that I've written, and I explain to them why each template letter should deliver some value to the client at the time that it's time to go out. And then I also show them how the follow-up works, what the timing of the follow-up is, and the tools that I've put into that workflow that will make their lives easier. And we'll probably go through it 2 or 3 times before the agents are going to really understand why this is valuable to them, why it will help their clients, and why helping their clients will get them more sales.
Yeah, I love that. I mean, yeah, it's hard to really understand the true value of understanding the ins and outs of the workflows until you actually do. So it's a difficult thing to communicate to an agent, and we struggle all the time to communicate it to new people that are coming on board. But once you really get in there and look at the workflows and the ins and outs and look at all the merge fields that are possible, then something clicks. So I would second that it takes 2 or 3 times. You just kind of have to hold people's hand and have them work through and read some of the emails and really get familiar with the reason behind why each activity exists and what's involved in those activities. Because there's so much value in just saving 5 minutes at a time, so much value. There are all these studies done, especially out of the Harvard Business Review and the Harvard Business Journal. They talk about switching tasks, and when you switch to do a 5-minute task, you're actually losing a lot more productivity because your brain is now only halfway focused And to get back focused, it takes 20, 30, 40 minutes sometimes. So having something like Realvolve and all these activities, the checklists laid out, allows you to jump off into Realvolve and get through several tasks, if not a dozen tasks, all at the same time, to then move back out and think more about the client and their needs and that relationship, and not just the things that have to be done. A really great question.
I want to make for you, Carolyn. In the past, and I've been doing this for almost 30 years, so in all of my real estate career, what has been sold to us, real estate agents, is, here, pay us a check for $39, and we're going to give you this thing, and you're not going to have to do any work, you're not going to have to think, you're not going to have to train anybody. Just take our thing, and you're going to take 22 listings in the next 5 minutes. And we all know that that's bullshit, but we all think, and I'm like super guilty, we all think that somebody else has got the better widget, right? And what I'm basically saying to you is, you can buy my stuff, and I think my stuff is really rad, but it's not the end-all be-all. But you can buy my stuff, but you're still going to have to put the work in to understand what it is and to implement it. And there's great power in this. But with great power comes great responsibility. And isn't it great that if you're willing to put in the work and you're willing to train your agents or to train yourself, that you're going to deliver true value that was hard-won, and you know that your competitor probably paid $39 and didn't put any work into it. So aren't you going to stand out and be a lot better and make a lot more money?
Well, it's 45 minutes in now. We have a lot more questions. Maybe let's just do some rapid fire question answering here for the next couple of minutes, because we need to finish on time. We have another webinar coming up right after this. It's a Q&A webinar for basics. So if we didn't get to your question, you have a question about how workflows are working, things like that, there's another webinar right after you can find in the Facebook community. So let's get to some of these questions rapid fire. There's like 10 more questions here at least that we need to get to still. So thanks for waiting, everybody. Okay, so Gina asked a follow-up question. How long has Simone been working for you, Kendyl? And looking back at her training in Realvolve, is there anything that you would have tried to learn first or done differently?
How long have you been with me?
2 years and 5 days.
And how many minutes? Is there anything you
do differently
with the training? With the training that you got? Quickly.
Yeah, I do a lot of things differently.
Like what? Just know you're criticizing me now.
I contact the clients a lot more.
What?
Yeah.
Oh, you mean in the beginning?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So we would code in a lot more contact with the clients.
Yeah.
Interesting. Love it. I'm sure there's 15 other things based on the look on Simone's face.
Yeah.
Okay, so Simone, do you have to go into each agent's account to see what they have not done yet, or do you do that from your account?
I do that from my account. There's several different ways that you can see what everyone has to do. You can either go to a property, or you can go to a transaction, or you can go to a contact.
These task lists here can be filtered by agent.
There's also the task
but she
list.
has admin privileges, so she can see everybody's everything.
Yeah, so I can just go on, say, a property that we opened escrow on last week. I can click on that property, and I can look at everything that's been done.
We have to be short. Okay,
awesome.
Next question.
Do you use Realvolve to follow up on leads/sphere? If so, how? Any tips or tricks for helping agents with their contact management and follow-up?
Are we going to do a separate webinar on that one?
Yeah, that's a whole nother topic. It's a really good question, Matthew, but you know,
the answer is yes.
Yeah, there are so many different ways to follow up. I mean, I would say at a minimum, you can create some very basic workflows or use some workflows that have email follow-ups and then reminders to call. And that's the most common thing that we see on our end.
Right now, what we see here on our task list here is call one time a week. That's our most basic follow-up. And it just is an auto reminder one time a week to do it, but you could attach collateral, articles you've written, or it's just almost endless what we can do. We can do text message. We can do a bunch of things. Video, email. I mean, it's awesome.
Yep. So Paige said that she found that checklists for closing and pendings get lost in her activity list. What advice would you have for her there?
When she says lost, what does she mean? Like she's got too many things?
Yeah, that's what it sounds like to me. I think, what I would say, Paige, is you probably just need to categorize those things a little bit differently. We've got a lot of different ways for you to categorize things. You can color code them. You can tag them.
Let me just show on the screen real quick. So, Paige, if you're doing that and let's just say you want your transactional stuff to come up to the top, you can color code it by doing that, and so every time it comes up, it will. Or you could use this priority, so you could make it a high priority. It's auto set to medium, and that means that on your dashboard, these will always be at the top of your task list for the day. So a lot of ways, or you could even number them. Okay, so that's a good way of doing it.
Yeah, Ryan, I see a technical question here, Ryan. I'll have to follow up with you later. That's a longer one. Checklist using our workflows. Let's see. Possible to customize the descriptions of a date field. How do we use dates to trigger activities in the workflow?
Oh man, that's like another webinar as well, but it's so powerful. You can do it off of computed date. You can do it off of triggers like this, right? When you can say, I want to do it from the completion of the last activity that you just wrote. So it's super, super powerful. Again, that's a whole nother webinar.
Yeah. Aaron asks, when you say an email goes out automatically, do you mean it goes out once you check a box in the workflow, or is there a way to have an email go out on a specific day/time without needing to check a box?
All the above. So you can choose to do it immediately. So when the task is due, so let's say you set it to go and it's due today, today will show up and the email will go out and you never see it, you never touch it, you never do anything. I personally am too much of a control freak to let that happen. So we have them set to send manually. So we get
edit before send.
That's what we do.
Yeah.
So you can do either one as you choose.
That's great. Do you use Realvolve for lead generating management or just transaction management?
Yes.
Both.
Awesome. So, Kendyl, we have.
I lost you, dude.
Yeah, sorry. We have about I don't know, maybe a dozen more questions that we didn't quite get to, so we're going to have to just follow up with you later. We just have a few more minutes left to wrap things up here. So, Kendyl, what did I convince you to do last week with your workflows?
I don't know. What did you convince me to do?
What are we doing with the price?
Oh, right. So here's the deal. When I joined the company, I gave Dave my original set of workflows, and I allowed him to have control of them. At the time that I joined the company, I was selling my workflows for $1,100, and they were going like hotcakes. I was doing a pretty tremendous business with them. And he wanted to use them as promotional material, and he immediately cut the price to $3.99. I threw up a little bit, had a few tears, but I trust Dave implicitly, and so that's what he did, and it was great, and we helped to build the company, using them. But now, we're a robust, hot company. Everybody wants to be with us now. And I had raised the prices to $5.99 a while ago. Don't remember when. It was last year sometime. And we're going to raise the prices again because, honestly, my workflows are really detailed. And even if you don't do business here in the greater Los Angeles area, I've heard enough feedback from people across the country under different systems that have said, you know what, I had to modify them to reflect my local area, but they were still really, really valuable to help, and they'd save so much time that I didn't have to write them from scratch. It was easier to modify what you did than to do it from scratch, and your ideas were really, really helpful for my business. So we're raising the price again. Dale, what are we raising them to?
So the Dig Suite is currently $5.99, and it's going to remain $5.99 through the end of the month. So you've got several days to still take advantage of that $5.99 price. On the 1st of March, they're going to go up to $7.99 for the Dig Suite. Again, that's $7.99 is not even close to what they're worth. There is so much detail in these workflows and so many templates involved. I don't even remember off the top of my head how many templates there are.
114.
There you go, 114. There's seven workflows in the basic package, and those are going up from, I think we said $199 up to $299. Is that right?
That's correct.
And then,
yeah.
And then the Dig Suite is going from $5.99 up to $7.99. So you can, if you want to act now and take advantage of all of the detail, all of the hard work that Kendyl has put into writing these and thinking about how to communicate with the clients, shoot us an email or go to, you can go to the website. It's go.realvolve.com/VA, and you click on the order button, or just send us an email at info@realvolve.com and let us know if you're interested in taking us up. If you want to learn more about them, you can email us info@realvolve.com, and we can kind of give you a short tour. We can walk you through for 5 minutes or so and show you what's involved there. But again, it's $5.99 for the Dig Suite, 14 workflows, 114 email templates, and again, so valuable. If nothing else, there are just so many ideas in the workflows. When you start going through them and reading some of the emails, you're going to think of so many different things that you can implement into your business to create a better communication cycle for your clients. And it's all about just knocking their socks off with how high touch you are and how personal you are and how you're anticipating all of their needs. So shoot us an email, like I said, info@realvolve.com. You can go to our website. If you don't have a Realvolve account now, go to the homepage at realvolve.com and start a free trial there. Lots of great power in our workflow platform. And then you can also go to go.realvolve.com, and I'm going to put it in the chat to get more information about the workflows. If you had any other questions, I'm going to be responding to those as quickly as we can here. We're just going to have to follow up with a couple of emails to answer those questions. Really appreciate everybody joining us today. Thank you so much, Kendyl. Thank you so much, Simone. Seems like we needed another 30 minutes with all of the questions that everybody had for you. Have a great day, everybody. We'll talk to you later. Bye-bye for now. Thanks.
Bye.
Oh, that's fun.
Good. You guys, we're a good team. The comedy routine.
I think we could have done that for 3 hours.
We could have.